Today on All Out Brick, we'll be taking a look at Takanuva. We're going to build the set, review it, and then give out a score. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Christian from All Out Brick. Welcome to another Toa Nui Monday. As always, the best way to tag along with us every week is to subscribe and turn on notifications. This week, we'll be building set 8699, Takanuva, who we're familiar with from the 2003 line. However, this set was released as a part of the 2008 line of Bionicle. After surviving an attack by the Makuta, Takanuva found himself controlling both the power of light and the power of shadow. The energies of Karda Nui granted him even greater power and transformed his appearance to be much larger. Once at Karda Nui, he assisted the Toa Nuva in their fight against the Brotherhood of Makuta. Taking a look at the packaging, we've got a pretty big box here. The front is quite simple though. We've got an image of Takanuva standing nice and strong. He's got some floating islands in the background, some swamp on the ground. We've got the Bionicle logo in the top left with the set name, and in the bottom left we've got ages 8 to 16, the set number, and the amount of pieces. The left side of the box has the Bionicle logo once again, and there's even a nice little pop out of Takanuva. This is the same set image as the front though. On the top of the box, we've got an actual size image of Takanuva's mask with a nice little glow in the background. And on the back of the box, it's a little bit busier here. We've got a big image of Takanuva standing up. In the bottom, we've got different images that show how his lance and the blaster work. And then on the right side, there are different images of the other sets, the vehicles, and the Mystica sets. Takanuva has been a big part of our journey through Bionicle since way back when, and is an incredible character, so hopefully this set can do justice to him. Let's go ahead and complete the build. Alright, after 25 minutes, we've got the completed Takanuva model. The build was pretty enjoyable, I will say, a bit repetitive because those legs are exact copies. There's no difference, but sometimes I like just being able to build both at once instead of having them mirrored, so that wasn't a big deal. It was a nice, easy build. The result is a nice and impressive model. I mean, this thing is pretty dang big, especially when you consider the original Takanuva from 2003. Like we discussed earlier, when he went to Karda Nui, the energies there really just upscaled him and made him a lot bigger and stronger. So it makes sense he's bigger, right, for the storyline. But man, it's just a lot bigger. It took me by surprise when I finished building this. I was like, whoa, like I was not expecting him to be this big, and not going to complain at all about it. It's awesome. The color scheme is a little bit different here too. We've of course got the dark gray metallic color instead of the gold color because that's just what's fitting with the Bionicle storyline. If you're familiar with 2008, it's just the state of the universe at this point that the gold is going to be dark gray. The mask is dark gray metallic, and it's a nice update to that original 2003 Mask of Light, but it also is so resemblant that I have no doubt that this is Takanuva. We went back, you go to the Mystica review, and one of the complaints was that the characters didn't feel like those characters. They didn't make this mistake with Takanuva, and frankly, I would have been so pissed if they did, because that mask from 2003, one of my favorite masks, one of the best masks out there, if you ask me, and so to just have disregarded that would have been such a sin. But they didn't. They just made it a little updated. It feels a little bit more upgraded as well in terms of just not only fitting how the styles of masks are for this like 2008 and how we've progressed through Bionicle, just a little bit more curved and a little bit more aerodynamic, I guess is the way to describe it. But it just fits very well, and I'm glad with what they did with this mask. Did the Mask of Light justice. This is a nice different version of it. I love it. The other dark gray metallic assets to Takanuva are going to be his shoulder pads and his thigh armor. Talking first about those shoulder pads, it took me a second to realize that these are Baraki heads. Love the way that they used these pieces, brought the mold back in a different color, of course, and it's so cool. I love it. As soon as I realized, I was like, this is amazing. They look great, very natural. They give the exact shaping I think it needs at the top of the model, and it is such a clever solution. I love what LEGO did bringing that for this. And then moving along to those thigh armor pads that I just brought up earlier, it brings some nice contrast to the model. It really separates the legs and doesn't make them feel too bright white, because at this point, Takanuva, he's controlling both light and shadow, like we found out in that little background summary, so he should have a little bit of darkness to him. He shouldn't be fully bright white. I think the color scheme overall just executed very, very well, and these dark gray metallic assets really pop out, and they use the exact right pieces, I think, for them. very well executed Lego. While a lot of this set is done very well, there's one big glaring issue that, it comes up from Titan sets every now and then. We hit it, and this is going to be one of them. That back is plain empty. There's just a couple Technic lift arms, and then there's some different joint pieces, some leg pieces, arm pieces, whatever you want to call them, that stick out. But, it's just an empty back at the end of the day. And it's just, it makes such a difference when you put something on the back. I mean, even just what they did with the chest on the front looks great, and it's really just 3 pieces. It's like 2 Technic pins and then this big flat armor piece. Why couldn't they have done that to the back? I have no idea. It's 270 pieces instead of, I think, 267. That big of a deal? Like, they really could have elevated this model. And I'm not to say that it brings the model down really super far, but they could have elevated it to really bring it up to another level here if they just finished that back off and made it a full complete display model. Instead, it's just a plain empty back, and you're left wishing for a little bit more there. One of the bigger concerns with Titan sets is how sturdy is this thing going to be? With Takanuva, you got no worries when it comes to sturdiness. Those legs and the arms attach at 2 different ball joint locations, and it just adds extra stability to the model. They're thicker limbs, so that is going to be a worry that they're not going to be super rigid. That's just not a worry with Takanuva. They're done well. I didn't have any issues with it. My pieces didn't crack yet again. 2008, you haven't got me yet so far, but at some point I'm sure it will. Back to these limbs. They're nice and sturdy. I can pose the model really any way I want to. I haven't had any slipping or anything like that. It's a little bit less, I guess, it hinders how much you can move the model because, of course, that mobility is going to be a little bit restricted because there's 2 joints now that are connecting at the arms and the legs. But I haven't come up to anything where it was frustrating. It just takes an extra second to really get it set, and maybe you have to push a piece around but it hasn't really affected me too much. I know some of those other models where it connects at multiple joints, the mobility is super restricted. Takanuva, I feel like they've really got the hang of these multiple connection points, so those limbs are going to do everything you're going to really want them to do and need them to do. Another small issue I had with this model was the hands. There's nothing really wrong with them. They could have been done better. At the end of the day, it's just like a simple finger mold and then a claw mold, and then you've got one small posable thumb on the top that's just snapped in with a Technic axle pin. I mean, that's so rudimentary, so simple. I get it. It works. It doesn't look ugly, but I wish we got a little bit more function there with the hands. I'm not saying we need Axon level articulation in the hands. God, no, we don't need that. Those hands would be ginormous. But maybe just a little extra detail and not just 2 mold pieces. It just feels a little simple. And again, just moving the one thumb, I wish we could pose it a little differently. Or even just be able to move that thumb in more than one axis would have been nice. But yeah, it's not a terrible thing. It's just could have been upgraded. LEGO didn't put their best out when it comes to those. There's 2 main play features to this model besides, of course, the articulation, but does that really a play feature? I don't know. The biggest one is going to be that blaster that's mounted on his right forearm. I love that they mounted it on his right forearm instead of saying oh, let's slap it in his right hand or just take away a hand in general and just have the blaster. Forearm mount's much better. We discussed this with the Toa Ignika, so there's not a whole lot really to talk about here. It works. I like it. It fires off pretty hard. I thought originally with the Toa Ignika it would be harder, but having it again with Takanuva is pretty cool. I like the play function. Just, man, those things are going to get lost very, very easily. So I hope that you have some extra ammo if you're planning on actually firing this thing off a lot because you're going to lose it very quickly. Then in traditionally his left hand, we've got his 3-pronged lance. This weapon is designed really well. I mean, I like the just simple, nothing really big to it. It's just a couple pieces, but those prong pieces look awesome. I love the mold that they used for it. The one thing I will say about this is I wish it connected to the hand. Again, back to those hands, a little bit differently. It just slides into this one open hole, and it's just not a rigid connection. So there was one case where I was moving the arm around, moving the model, and it slipped right out and fell. That's not really going to happen that much because there's a long axle that's going into the hand. But in terms of just being able to pose the model, it restricts you on that sense. I wish that we could have gotten a little bit more rigid of a connection, like an actual axle connection instead of an open hole would have been a little bit better. I don't know why we couldn't have found a way to do that, or there's plenty of ways I could have found a way to make it a little bit more rigid there. But again, that just goes back to the hands, and if they made it a little bit differently, I think we have a different grip and actually could have had maybe his lance actually in his hand. Would have been pretty nice. Again, really not that big of a deal. It's only one time I ran into an issue with the thing falling out, but could have been done a little bit better. Overall, this is my favorite set of 2008 so far. It did justice to Takanuva. It's a nice, awesome, sturdy, pretty big Titan set. It brings us back to an old character. Again, does it justice. A nice, slightly different mask, some really cool shoulder pads, some nice functions, good stability, nicely constructed. There's a little bit missing here and there that could have really elevated this model. I mean, we talk about maybe finishing that back up, fixing the hands a little bit, and giving a better weapon attachment. And this model is going to skyrocket in terms of my tiers. Those are all things I think you can adjust manually, maybe make some mods a little bit on your own, and you can really make this model special on your own. It's just, as the set, how it was released is how we review it, so just missing a little bit there. Personally, I think if you're interested in this set, you should get it as soon as possible, because when you look at the prices, they're not terrible just yet, but they're going to continue to go up, and I think it's very much worth it to get it now. If you're looking to get it in used condition, you can expect to pay around like $90 US for the set. In brand new sealed condition, it's going to go up to like $240, $250 US. Now, I'm not saying you need to get it in brand new or anything like that. It is kind of at the point, though, where $250 versus like $100 plus shipping, maybe you consider it. I know it's like double the price still, over double, but I think if you're going to spend over $100 for a model, it's at least worth a thought to get it brand new sealed. I had no issues with the joints, but just given the history and just the overall narrative for 2008, that would give you pretty much a guarantee that you won't run into any broken joints when you receive them. Used condition, I think, is the way to go. And again, I think you should go ahead and get this set as soon as possible if you're interested in it, because once those prices go up into like the 150s, 160, eventually it's going to happen. Then it starts to get into maybe that overpriced for used condition range. So I would recommend you get it. It's an awesome set. I love it. So if you're interested in it, I think you should go ahead and get it. In terms of a score, I'm going to give Takanuva an 8.3. Awesome set. Could have been done if you make some small modifications. This thing is easily in the upper 8s. Now, I'm not going to hit 9s. That's very tough. Only a couple sets have been able to do that so far, but definitely could have been the upper 8s with a little bit of modifications. Again, you can very easily do those on your own, so you can make yourself a version of Takanuva with some small adjustments, or you can go with the one that was released by LEGO, and there's really not that much wrong with it, and it's going to make a great display piece for your Bionicle collection. So 8.3, that's your review. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to be the first to see all of our future content. Also, be sure to check us out on our website and on our Facebook and Instagram pages. Until next time, stay bricking.